Thank you, President Patty. Wow, what a crowd. I think this is the biggest we've had here yet. I hope Yorktowne's going to hold us all if we keep going, growing like this anyway. But, I need to talk about the IDA for a minute before we bring Jack up. Jack is just getting these wheels going, his juices are flowing, and he's ready. He's ready. But the IDA, we're a small group. There are 14 of us, and we have a lot of other people helping us. And looking around here, you see Patty Stirk is here. She's our secretary, and she's hiding someplace. I know I saw her earlier. I don't know if Gene Kraganowski's here or not. He's also on our board as our vice chairman. And we have Ron Erster up here as our solicitor. He tries to keep us all out of jail. Things that we're doing. And last but not least, we have a whole table here of the economic development and with here, and they are our backup support. They keep us working. We have no staff. We do nothing except sit around and talk. They're the ones that actually do the work. And we need them, and I'm glad that they're here. This is a good way for them to find out what we're doing. Now I'd like to introduce Jack. And Jack has been here before. We gave you a preview when we closed the Yorktowne. And so I'll just make a short introduction. And I'm quite sure he's going to be back a few more times before it's all over. But Jack is a graduate of Temple University, and he has a master's in public administration and city planning. When he graduated, he went to work for the city of Philadelphia in their city planning commission. He left after a few years and came to the city of York as the director of community and economic development. And after a short while at that, from 76 to 81, just a short while, he moved on to Susquehanna Falstaff, where he was the vice president of real estate for them. After several years of that, he moved on, and he now is the president of Susquehanna Real Estate. Although I don't think he gets to practice that real estate too much anymore, because we've kind of got him locked up in doing just what you're going to hear him do and show you right now where we're at on the Yorktowne. Jack Kay.
Thank you, Al. And I have to say I feel a bit inadequate standing before you right now. I didn't come with a banner. I can't play the clarinet, and I don't have a charming English accent. But I hope you'll indulge me. Is that enough sucking up? All right. So I am here to give you an update of the progress we've made in working on the Yorktowne Hotel project. And as I was thinking about how to do this in a way that would be interesting, I thought I would frame the discussion in a way that's a little bit different. Not everyone here, but I think some of you may be old enough to recognize this caricature. This is Karnak the Magnificent. And this was a bit that was played by Johnny Carson. And the bit involved his divining an answer to a question. And then he would rip open an envelope, and the question would be in the envelope. And one of the, I think, most famous of his bits was where the answer was sis, boom, ba. And the question is, what sound is heard when a sheep explodes? Sis, boom, ba. He got a good laugh out of it. So I thought I would frame our discussion the same way and really present this in the context of giving you the answers to the questions that I receive the most about the project. So the answers are yes, no, we'd really like to, and I don't know. That's my presentation. It gives have a question, please state it clearly. My hearing is not as good as it used to be. Okay, so the first question is, has the project started? And the answer is yes. Although if you walk casually by the hotel, it's not all that obvious about what's been going on. But with a project of this scale, there's a tremendous amount of back work that needs to take place. We have to understand really how the building exists, how it's put together. We've been working on baseline information, structural analysis, utility analysis. That's been helped tremendously, of course, by the team that we've put together that's working on this with us. It involves Newtek and JDB as architects and engineers, coupled with a firm in Baltimore, BHC, that has a tremendous amount of hospitality experience. We brought Kinsley Construction on as our construction manager, and that's been very helpful. And you will hear this first, although I can't announce who it is yet. Just yesterday, we reached an agreement to have the hotel operator kind of be the third part of that triangle. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to announce that. It's very exciting. Not to take words from our president, really going to like it. It's very exciting. Hopefully we'll announce that in a week or so. So yes, we've started on the project. Physically, we've started doing some demolition to explore what's going on in the basement with structure and so forth. All kinds of analysis has been taking place. And of course, all of this is meant to accomplish the objective of creating really a gem that's going to be a continual part of the community. We want this to be the hotel of choice for businesses, for casual, for tourism, for so forth. All of the great events in York took place at the hotel in the past. We want to be able to continue that legacy. So we want this to be the hotel of preferred choice. And what you're going to see is how we're approaching this, the decisions we're making. And I have to stress this is a work in progress. So I'm going to actually take you through a little bit of the choices we've made and the direction we're taking. So how are we going to do all this? Well, we've done some analysis and our consultants have looked at the market, concluded hotel has more rooms than we need as it stands now. We're going to end up somewhere between 100 to 120 rooms when it's all said and done, stressing that it's a full-service facility, substantial lobby, ballroom, meeting spaces, great aesthetics, and we have to solve some of the how questions. We know we need a parking solution. We're looking at whether this ought to be an independent or a nationally flagged hotel. We know we need to provide consistent top-tier service. And I think the operators that we're going to be talking about in the near future agree and know just how to accomplish that. So we have challenges with this building. When you came to Rotary meetings in the past, walking through the lobby and into the ballroom, you perhaps didn't focus on some of the deficiencies with the building. These things have all really been looked at pretty extensively. You might be able to button here, there we go. You might be able to, let me go back. There we go. You might be able to make out that we have missing mortar, there's water seepage coming through areas that have been deficient, we have rooftop failures, a number of exterior problems with the building that will be addressed as part of the renovation. So we know we're going to be doing a pretty significant kind of redevelopment of the outside of the building, replacing the windows and so forth. There's also structural challenges with the parking garage. I know many have been disappointed that the parking facility has been shut down now, I think for about 3 years. This is why. We've had structural deterioration, rebar that's rusted through and literally is ready to fall off. So that had to be shut down, and you'll see how this is envisioned to be addressed in the future as we start working with the building envelope. And in the inside of the building, again, a number of challenges, antiquated HVAC and mechanical systems, some pretty dodgy kind of electrical things going on. You can't quite make it out, but this is an air conditioning vent, and there's probably a 50-pound chandelier that's handling from that vent. So, you know, those are the kinds of things that we hope to be able to modify and address. There's also another part of this, and we're very sensitive to the elements of the building that people relate to and that they like. There are a number of very nice design features, historic elements that compose part of the building. And we're looking at all of those, and this will not be a gross wholesale change of some things that I think work pretty well, but need to be updated, refreshed, kind of cleaned up a little bit. So at least at this point, things like the lobby, the ballroom, some of the other public spaces are going to be refreshed, cleaned up, restored, instead of being taken out, although programming for those spaces might be a little bit different. We're hoping to make better use of the lobby, for example. We're looking at a number of things related to the ballroom and how that could function a little bit better. If you've experienced a major event at the ballroom, as an example, there really isn't a staging area or a place outside of the ballroom where people can congregate. We hope to address those kinds of things to make it much more user-friendly. So this is kind of an orientation of the site. The red is the Yorktowne Hotel property. This is Market Street, here's Duke Street. And I'll show you in a minute what this is made up of. This is the original sort of L-shaped construction. This was an addition, and this is the parking area. And in addition to the hotel, we acquired the Zion Church property, which sits just to the south. This is Mason Alley. The Zion Church is made up of two pieces: front church, which dates back to around the mid-1800s, and a back building that was constructed later on as sort of a gymnasium in the mid-50s. And we originally acquired the property because there was an opportunity to acquire it in a desirable way. We felt it was important, after all of the work and renovation and investment we're going to be making into the hotel, to be able to control this key property that sits immediately adjacent to it. And as we started looking at it, here is a kind of an example. This is the Duke Street elevation. Here's the church, and you can see its relationship to the Duke Street side of the hotel. The front building, the back building, and the back building is actually in pretty rough shape. And so we're looking at, there we go, I'll catch up. We're looking at doing demolition of the rear part of the building, and you can see its condition, and it's almost ready to fall in on itself. So in looking at this, one of the things that we concluded, and this is the interior of the property, and it's actually very handsome space. You can see it's clear span, there are no columns, it's a high volume, almost 2.5-story space, and it's got very handsome art glass windows. We're not sure if they're Rudy art glass windows, they're art glass windows, so the propaganda we're putting out, yeah, they're Rudy art glass windows. Who's going to say no? But the interesting thing is we see this as a space that could be an additional function space at the hotel. So it gives us more programming ability. We think the space has the capacity of the same size as the existing ballroom, and it gives us really more capacity and more programming options for how we make this space work. So this is sort of a diagram of the stages of the hotel. The red bars show the original 1925 construction. After the hotel opened, just a few years later, they began the 1927 construction. The hotel was so successful after it opened that they felt it needed additional capacity. And in that 1927 construction was also the addition of what you would refer to as the mirror room that got added. And then in the mid-50s, the yellow bar denotes what we call the 1957 edition, which was built on what was sort of a service station and became hotel rooms that sat above the parking garage that got constructed at that time. So this is looking at it from kind of the corner of Duke and Market, and you can see between the red bars is the original 1957 construction. And most people really don't realize that the 27 edition, because they really did such a wonderful job blending the style and construction, unless you stand across the street and really look at it, you wouldn't notice how this addition got constructed. And on the 57 addition on Duke Street, you just sort of see the edge of that. And what's been interesting is, as we look at the 57 addition, the detail and the quality of that construction doesn't come close to matching the original. So as part of looking at all of this, and as I mentioned, our consultant's conclusion was we have too many hotel rooms. We need to come back down to about 110 or 120 rooms. So I'm going to show you and walk you through a little bit of the proposed demolition that we're going to be doing. So the second question on the heels of have you started yet is are you finished yet? And it's really interesting to me how many people say, oh, you've been working on this, is it done yet? And actually just before Ron Hirschner made the observation that we've been working on this about 1.5 years. And of course, for a part of that time, we kept the hotel open. But no, it is not finished yet. As I mentioned, we've done a lot of preliminary work, but this is just a quick snapshot of the schedule. One of the things that we're continuing to work on is putting the capital stack together to allow us to do this. We were very fortunate in being successful in getting a $10 million state grant. And we really do have to acknowledge the great work that the staff of the Economic Alliance did in putting together that application and kind of ferreting it through the bureaucracy. So we have that in place. We need to match those funds, and that's kind of an ongoing process. We have just under $7 million of matching funds in hand right now. And that's been through both individual, philanthropic, and foundation support. And we purposely created a structure that allows really a lot of opportunity. And I'm looking at all of you, if you might be interested in investing in this project at almost any level. We have the Industrial Development Authority that by its organizational nature can be the recipient of gifts that would offer a tax benefit to those making that. We also created a limited liability corporation, and some of the support we've received are from either groups or individuals who are characterizing that investment as an investment, that participation as an investment. And we will also probably do some form of funding where citizens, people who like the hotel, want to feel like they're part of this process, can participate as well. And we think that when we're a little bit further along in presenting really what the final plan and design is, that would be really a good opportunity to go out and raise some additional funding. So we're doing the design and engineering right now. We think sometime in the fall we'll be far enough along that we'll have a pretty good idea of the scope, general idea of the budget that needs to occur. Assuming all that does take place, we hope to actually start construction sometime around the end of this year. And we're looking at roughly a 2-year construction period. You know, there may be some elements of the project that might open up in late 2018, but I think that the rest of the project will probably come online in stages and probably fall into the first quarter or so of 2019. So our challenge, a big picture challenge, is how do we balance the historic elements, the pieces of the hotel that people like and relate to, that have provided so many good experiences, with the need to provide modern, efficient, well-equipped public spaces, hotel rooms, meeting spaces. And one of the things that we know we have to do is provide meeting and conference facilities that really are state-of-the-art, have the right technology, are shaped correctly so that presentations can be done very efficiently and comfortably. And we hope to be able to do that in a way that attracts corporate business that we know we're going to need through the week in order to make the project successful. And as part of that, we are reaching out to local corporations and businesses and asking them, what do you want in this project in the way of facilities so that this would be one of your top choices when you consider locations. So how are we going to do all of this? I mentioned we have too many rooms, so in the plan as it stands right now is the demolition of the parking garage in the 57 addition. This is the back of the parking garage, and that would also go away. And when we do that, the L is the original sort of hotel-shaped piece of this, and the gray marked demo would go away. And so what we're left with is a new canvas. And the green area represents the canvas that we will have. And I'll just point out that this is the back of the church property, and after that demolition, we will have a little bit of a surface lot that could be part of a parking solution. The adjoining lot is owned by Christ Lutheran Church, and we have had discussions with the church congregation about looking how those two pieces could be put together, potentially with a deck constructed on top of both lots that could provide a parking resource as part of a parking solution for the project. Of course, the updated Market Street garage is directly across the street, so we see parking being resolved with not just one solution, but potentially a number of possible things that would help support that. Another element to point out is this is, of course, the old courthouse, now the county administration center. And if you can picture it, there's a small kind of sitting area, plaza, and county commissioners and staff park along here. We've been having discussions with the county about allowing the hotel to take over this area so that if you're approaching the hotel from Market Street, you would turn in just before and be able to come into a new arrival area back here, versus if you've experienced this, today you pull up in front of Market Street, you unload, and then you'd have to drive east up to Queen Street, and then make a right turn, find Mason, make a right turn, come back down the alley, and come back to Duke. By having this approach, we feel this is a much more convenient and much more desirable way to provide access. And so this would provide one means of access. We continue to have, I keep jumping around here, I apologize for that. Okay. We would continue to have access from Duke Street, and from King Street, we'd be able to come in through Court, make a right turn, and come back down here. So that's part of the sort of site planning solution that we're looking at accomplishing. And what I'd like to do now is sort of take you through a couple of the site alternatives that we've considered and show you where we think we're ending up. So I need to sort of stress that some of the things I'm going to show you are not far enough along yet that we can say conclusively this is what the plan is. So it hasn't been fully vetted, it hasn't been fully budgeted and costed, and there's also the constructability issue. We have great ideas and plans. How you actually make them work is a challenge that Kinsley has to address, and we're looking for them to help us do that successfully. So again, the caution is it's a work in progress, so bear with me. So one of the original thoughts we had was looking at the church property, which is over here, and this would be the hotel component after the demolition of the 57 addition that sits over here, is attempting to visually tie the church property together with the hotel through creation of some sort of a plaza using paving materials, lighting, landscaping, etc., and possibly tucking some sort of parking structure in this area, which on the surface of it would be very convenient. You'd be able to pull in, offload, and go right into a garage. Not all that different than what was in this location now. And potentially another parking solution back up in here. When we looked at it, we thought that while it might be a practical solution, that it really didn't conform to what we felt was an opportunity to really exploit this site and use good planning practice in how we consider the alternatives. So we sort of discarded this alternative and went to a concept that tries to create a much more significant arrival experience by the creation of a much larger, much more significant, and I'm jumping ahead. Oh, I lost my clicker.
Going the wrong way.
Okay. Okay. We're creating a more significant plaza in this concept that, again, would use very nice paving materials and lighting. And here, what we're looking at is an arrival from Duke Street, and this becomes as important or perhaps more important than the Market Street arrival experience. And again, here, if you arrived on Duke Street, you'd be able to pull in. There would be a new kind of small lobby here with an elevator that would take you up to the lobby level, and then you would continue under a canopy, be able to continue into a parking solution over here, or exit and come back out. If you came in from Market Street, you'd be able to come in, again, come through this sort of arrival experience and continue out. And again, the objective is tying the church property together with the hotel and really opening up the sight lines so that your perspective of the existing courthouse, which is a very handsome building, is much clearer and really creates this much more visual, impactful experience as you're coming down Duke Street, instead of looking at what I would describe as not too attractive 57 Edition. You'd have this new elevation from the hotel and this sort of really very nice location that would really act as an anchor in this part of downtown. Another alternative that we took a look at is if you went through a tour of the hotel and you went down 3 basement levels, it actually goes down over 20 feet below the elevation of Duke Street. And one of the things we looked at doing was seeing if there might be an opportunity to do underground parking underneath that plaza and part of the hotel. And the way that would work is there'd be a ramp, you'd be able to come in, go down to the basement level, and then this upper level would continue to have a plaza in some shape. And as we looked at that, what became clear is, given life safety requirements, the need for an elevator, handicapped access, ventilation, sprinkling, 2 means of egress, and so forth, became prohibitively expensive. So while we thought it would be a very nice solution, we really didn't think that we had the budget to be able to accomplish that. So ultimately, we came around to a solution that I think will end up much closer to this. And again, here's Duke Street, here's Market Street, Court Alley, and King Street over here. So if you came in from Market Street, you'd be able to come in, come down here, and then come into this arrival plaza, meant to tie all of this together with the Zion Church property. And you can get a perspective here how all of this opens up and almost ties all of these properties together. And this is a closer view of the plaza, showing some of the detail. Again, this is preliminary, but what I wanted to point out here is this would be kind of a new elevator that takes you up to the lobby level. And I'll talk in a minute about some other residential uses that we're thinking about for the hotel. And that would have its own separate small lobby and elevator over here. There we go, okay. When we originally looked at the hotel, one of the things we discovered as we were sort of exploring the structure is there wasn't consistency on floors by how the columns lined up and how the structure worked. And an original concern that we had was that we really couldn't create efficient new rooms that work well and really provide the kind of experience and size and shape that a modern hotel requires. With the benefit of additional analysis from our architectural group, we came up with a plan that involves actually moving a corridor slightly 4 feet or so off center. And by doing that, it gives us an opportunity to orient rooms in this direction on this side of the corridor, in a horizontal direction on this side of the corridor. And the big conclusion from that was that we actually can keep the existing structural system, we can keep the existing floor slabs. So that has a benefit in terms of the total scope of work, the costs involved, The other thing that it does, early on when we thought we might have to take all that structure down, was a concept where we might keep the architectural base of the hotel and potentially have to take the top floors down and rebuild something else. And while we thought that that might be a necessity, we've come around to this solution, which we think does a number of things. And of course, it really preserves what people perceive and have as an image of the hotel, and is more consistent with preserving historically the character and nature of the hotel. The other thing I'll point out, a little slow on the clicker. Okay. We need about 100 to 120 rooms. That will use about 5 floors of 7 that are available for designation as rooms. So we're looking at programming 1 or 2 floors as either apartments or condominiums that might be in addition to the hospitality rooms that the hotel would utilize. And this does a number of things. People living in this type of environment have the benefit of whatever restaurants and food would be taking place in the hotel, all kinds of services that would be available. And just the mention that this is a possibility has generated a fair amount of interest from individuals who've actually approached us and said that they would be interested in considering something like this. So in the coming weeks, we will be reaching out and inviting folks to come in and do sort of a small focus group and provide suggestions and input and commentary about how we might address something like this. So the third question is, will you build a rooftop facility? We talked about the fact that the roof provides some great views, and we would really like to. And as I've gone and done presentations to a number of different groups and organizations, this is one of the things that consistently is brought up. Interestingly, when the hotel was first constructed, there was a small apartment built on the roof that the manager of the hotel occupied. And this is a view from the roof, and actually the view is very nice in all directions. And there is real interest on our part to see if we can accomplish that. As we envision it right now, this is not a full-service restaurant, but it might be a small bar or lounge that might serve appetizers or small plate kind of things. And we hope to do it in a way where it might be able to offer a year-round facility. So this is some perspectives of what this all looks like, kind of a bird's eye view. You can see by this how the sight lines from Duke Street as you're approaching, the sight lines kind of open up the courthouse, the hotel, and the church. And we're looking at this and designing it as though it's a campus, and it would become sort of a plaza area and a terminus of improvements that are going to be taking place in Mason Alley, and can really be a public gathering space that is not meant to be a back of house as the hotel has it now, but really a very desirable and attractive location. Some other perspectives of what this looks like. And I'll go back again. And here you're looking at the perspective from Duke Street, and you can just see the rooftop facility. Again, this is not the design, but just sort of meant to indicate what this would be like. And here in form, you see what is likely to be the restoration of the outside, and creating uses along street level, particularly that are dynamic, either commercial or retail in nature, so that there's ongoing activity and kind of a feeling of action at this intersection. So the last question often asked, is this a nationally flagged hotel or an independent boutique type hotel? We don't really know yet. One of the things we hope to accomplish is when our operator comes on, is to help make that decision. There are pros and cons. Having a national flag gets you a reservation system, national marketing and so forth, and points. But there's a steep price to pay for that. There's a percentage that might run 8 to 10% off gross that you have to commit to doing something like that. So it's an evaluation that we're going to be doing over the next couple of months. But even as an independent hotel, There are now systems and groupings of those kinds of hotels that offer access to reservation and points, so it's not strictly an all or nothing kind of thing. So that's a quick overview. If any of you have some questions, I'd be happy to address them. How much time we got? We have no time. I didn't want to answer your questions. Thank you all for your patience.